Hello, this is Cryptolyze. I hope you are well. This Thursday, 14 December 2023, we meet today to talk about METIS, the crypto of METIS, layer 2 of Ethereum. And as usual, we're going to divide this video into two parts. Fundamental part, we will come back to what is METIS, the interest of a layer 2. And then we will go to the technical part on the graphs to project short, medium, long-term on purchase prices, prices of sale, and it starts right away. If you want to train and really enjoy bull running, it's simple. There is perfect, complete, free training available. It's through an educational journey that teaches you everything about blockchain, crypto, investment, technical analysis, and trading. All this for free in comments and descriptions. You have exercises, multiple choice questions, modules, videos, guides, everything to support you in your progress. Let's talk about METIS. So it's a blockchain which is a layer 2 of Ethereum. Understand that as being an overlay to Ethereum, something which will provide scalability, which will manage a certain number of transactions before instantiating these transactions directly on Ethereum. They decided to go with a technical layer of optimism, so it's an optimistic roll-up. So they are not built on optimism, but they use the same technology as optimism, so it's an optimistic roll PP. This means that we will validate the transactions with a finality of 7 days, given that there are 7 days to determine whether, yes or no, this transaction is good or not. So why didn't they make the ZK roof? Why are they not directed towards zero-knowledge roof, which is still a much superior technology? It is planned. It is in progress. It is marked that, well, for the moment, they have been optimistic because in this case, the optimistics were much simpler to implement, and it made it possible to deploy the blockchain already in its current state. So in the current state, let's talk about it. We have 5 lock. A little less than 5 lock wallets. We have gas fees, which are very, very low, which is normal for a layer 2. And we also have a TVL, which is not enormous. 102 million. It's really not much. That's the old one, the old screen. So the old site, that's the new one. We can already see the big difference, a little rebranding, which was carried out, a little incentive, which was released on AAV, which is rather classic when we arrive in a real bull run. You will see a lot of incentives to farm liquidity on AAV. It would certainly lead you to do it in specific videos. And we have behind it at the team level people who are very, very well known in the ecosystem or close to known people. Those who understand know very well that METIS is very close to Ethereum through Vitalik. And METIS has a connotation and an approach, in fact, commercial, which is really focused around interconnection with Ethereum. Okay, they are not positioning themselves as being a full-fledged blockchain, really. They are really in the connotation of integrating a scalability solution, an existing solution, which is that of Ethereum. This is where we perhaps already see the different attraction, which is that they do not define themselves as a separate entity, although they do it as it is, and they are really an entity. Apart, but they still have communication that is a little closer. Of the truly notion of a clean scalability tool to Ethereum. So obviously imagine that it is EVM compatible, that it has transaction finishes which are perhaps a little long because of its consensus system, but we are behind in a blockchain which is technically very solid and which works very well. And when we look a little more and we look at why they chose the notion of optimism, they said that they are thinking about it now. But in the discussion that there was about a year ago in the interview, he explained that the ZK rollup was a bit of a fad, but that optimism was above all very good because it made it possible to integrate quickly and above all inexpensively on the EVM. So, yes, it's true. But what's funny is that we've already started to have a little shift on this side, and the positioning that's being done is changing. And that's really worth noting, because it could in fact be one of METIS's big bets later. Once again, we'll have to keep an eye out because it's still just rumors, and we'll have to wait for what's next. So, at the level of METIS, the token itself is necessarily a utility token which allows us to pay gas fees, which allows us to do governance. We have roughly a little more than 50 which are in circulation, and we have a diluted market cap which is 231 million, okay, which is relatively weak compared to the general state of the market and the METIS, and in particular the general state of layers 2. I tend to consider that it is a little underperforming compared to all the layers 2 that we could have, despite the fact that it already has an ecosystem which is relatively complete. We have a little bit of everything, even if it's not enough for my taste. Okay, we're still below what we can find on the Arbitrum or the OP, So for me, we're a little bit below, but it's something to watch out for because we could have news that could arrive quite quickly if we ever have a big incentive policy. Namely that at the level of tokenomics, we still had 60 for the community. And therefore, for me, we risk having an incentive here which risks being let go. On the other hand, we have the bad news, which is that it is not a blockchain which is very, very active. When we look at METIS, we see that we have quite a few developers working on it, on average 2 developers with a whole part on 2023. Quite few developers, quite few commits, and above all, really since then, we are going, say, June 2023, we see that we have almost no one left, almost no more commits. It's really complicated, and that, when I see that, that's where I just have a point of alert, okay? So we could have a very good valuation which could be done at the level of METIS on a narrative around layers 2. But we will have to monitor whether behind it we have commits and we have developers who are returning, or does it remain relatively flat? If it remains relatively flat like that, unfortunately, you will have to not be attached to your token because that means that you does not have any development of the blockchain. And if we do not have any development of the blockchain, that means that we have no evolution. And if we do not have any evolution, we do not have of continuity, really, and of interest in having METIS. So that being said, let's tackle the technical part. Technical part in which we had a launch which was very aggressive. Launch in which we had the establishment of a distribution of Wyckoff in BC, Arkansas, ST, SAO, Utah, UTAD, Classic. Stopping of the trend bullish. We retrace, we retest, we sink, we reaccumulate. We go and look for the liquidity above by doing UT, UTAD, and then we sink. So we sink very, very strongly, in which we had a downtrend stopped on Celsius. In 2022, rather classic, and in which we went to rebreak, but very late, unlike others, METIS went to rebreak Celsius. Here with this candle there, which was that of August 2023, which is not linked to news, but which is linked to a downward pressure that we had already had for a certain number of weeks, and which had a huge impact on the price. That's it. We left since September 2023, so unlike many other cryptos, we didn't wait for BTC to leave. That's really good news, technically. Technically, we could even say that we have an SC, ST, STB. Here, we really have a classic accumulation of Wyckoff. We are really borderline textbook on the accumulation of Wyckoff and what it would take to really validate it, to say to ourselves that we are not going to do spring. Is to break this level there okay? Go break 36. There we will have a signal to tell ourselves that potentially we are consolidating above. We will have a bullish break, okay. Because for the moment, unfortunately, we are still in something which is a bearish trend. As long as we do not break this level, then a minimum of this one, and above all, validate this one. As long as we do not break the 40 here, $4, we do not actually have validation of the reversal of the trend and the inversion of the structure. So we must be very careful that we can very simply continue to have a trend which will be bearish as we nose him, to have something which will in fact sink in this way and which will in fact slowly collapse despite the fact that we find ourselves in a bull run. So we must take into consideration the fact that we are still in a bearish structure. Yes, we are in an accumulation, but at the same time still a bearish structure, and we have elements which must be monitored from a fundamental point of view to determine, is there a sequel behind it or not? Besides, speaking of the sequel, what can we aim for? We are already on a diluted market cap, which is very low. 200 million is nothing. Just having a layer 2, which will be around 5 billion, seems coherent to me from the moment we have applications, we have incentives, we have developers who come, and we have a narrative around layers 2. So on that already brings us very quickly to a valuation of the price, which will be much higher than 25, because that if we arrive at a diluted market cap, which is at 2 billion to 5 billion, we already find ourselves on a $250 present on the METIS. So already we will look for targets which are higher than the 88 for go get. There you go. Potentially 250 for a market cap of 25 billion, which is not enormous after all for a layer 2. And what we could aim for if we ever go even further is precisely potentially go get 5, 6, 10 billion. And so there it is, simply to divide that by the number of tokens in circulation in total. So that means 10 million. And there you have precisely the price of the token, and count on really long-term perspectives on the end of the bull run that we could have with a narrative with quite a few elements to validate in terms of fundamentals, but which still gives us good prospects for a layer 2 and for METIS. I hope you like this video. If so, don't forget to leave me a like and a comment. It supports the channel, it supports what I do, and above all, it makes me very happy, and we'll see you tomorrow 7 for the daily to come back on crypto news, on what is happening with BTC. It's tomorrow 7.